Okay, so we're going to be looking at how to use the TM50 Korg combo tuner metronome. It's actually quite simple. You have two sides to control two different things, which is one side is the tuner, which is on the left side here. The other side is the metronome. All right, and the tuner is going to help us figure out if our pitch is literally in tune, too flat, or too sharp, or kind of tell us how many hertz we are to adjust. Whether it be the length of the instrument, or for orchestral string instruments, how to tighten or loosen the string. Then for the right side, we have the metronome section, or the metronome side, and the metronome gives us a beat or a sound or a click or even a little left to right pendulum looking arm that swings to give you a certain tempo, which is the speed of a piece or a song, and it's going to be measured by beats per minute, kind of like seconds or miles per hour. So let's look at the tuner side, because all Schlager students and bands should be looking at trying to make a pitch stay in tune. So we're going to start by turning on the tuner by pressing the on button here. And after you turn on the on button for either side, you can also adjust the brightness. It should already start out just pretty dark and plain. The first click gets it sort of bright, and the second click makes it even brighter. With the third click, turn it back off. So just for this purpose of the video, we'll leave it bright. Now, the calibration is really important. Usually the tuners are already set to 440 hertz. That's this little corner here, it says 440. And we want to make sure that in America we're using 440 hertz for our tuning. That's just a standard for us. We're not going to go into details about it. Just know that it stays at 440. And to change it, all you have to do is press these arrows up or down for the calibration. You'll notice that if you click up, it'll go higher. If you click down, it'll go back down to 440 or even below. Please maintain it at 440. Now, you could have a sound back where you click the sound and you can match pitch along with it. And you can adjust the volume by this little dial at the top where it says volume, up to the top right corner by the metronome. Let me go ahead and roll it so you can get softer or louder. Turn off the sound by clicking the sound button again. And if you want to change pitch, hit sound, and we can go up or down chromatically, or up chromatically. And it'll tell you on the right side a number of what octave we're playing at. So if you were to do this with the piano, you'll know you're playing A5, which is the fifth octave on the piano. Okay, so that is the speaker right here that the sound's coming out of. If that's a little too loud for you, you can always use the headphones, or if you can't hear it because you want to get the metronome on, you can also plug in a pair of headphones as well. Normal size headphone, 1/8 inch, that usually comes on any headphones, can plug in. Of course, this is not Bluetooth, so if you have Bluetooth headphones, this will not work. Now, another thing you can get is called an input. This is especially important when we start doing the tuning. As you can see, as I'm talking, it's going to go change different letters, or pitches, if you will, and it'll actually be the dial going left to right, and you'll see that there's a red light and a green light that flickers up on the top. That is going to tell us whether we're in tune or not. And it's actually being picked up by this microphone in here. Now, another way to do it is to get one of the clip-on microphones that actually is a touch vibration sensitive microphone. So meaning if I'm talking out loud, it wouldn't pick it up at all. But if it's touching the bell of your instrument, or the bridge or scroll of your stringed instrument, or the headstock of a guitar or bass, it'll pick up the vibrations just from that instrument and nothing else around you, unless of course the clip is very sensitive, and sometimes it will pick up a few things, but mainly when you're playing a sound, it's going to just pick up your own sound. So that's really good to have in class. Outside of class, if you're at home, unless there's a TV on or the radio on, which you shouldn't have when you're practicing anyways, you shouldn't need to get a clip-on tuner, adapter rather. So let's talk about using the tuner. As you can see, again, I'm talking and it's changing letters and pitches because my voice is going up and down as I talk, because that's how normal human beings talk. So our goal in class is to try to mimic one sound, one pitch, and try to keep it in tune. What that means is that we have to make sure that that little knob, that little dial that's going back and forth, stays centered, and that the green light stays lit only by itself, neither one on either side staying lit. Now, let's say, hopefully I can turn this tuner on back next to me and it can kind of hear the pitch for the pitch F. This is concert F pitch for saxophones. That's going to be your D for flutes, oboes, baritones, trombones, tubas, percussion, playing on keys. All concert pitch instruments show an F. If you're playing a B flat instrument, it's like clarinet, it's G. And for the French horn, I believe it's going to show up a C. Or they have to play a C. Trumpet is also going to show up an F, but you're playing an open G. So here's that pitch A, or F rather. Notice that F is showing up. And it's staying fairly in tune. Now this should have been perfect, but there's other sounds around it. So I'm going to turn up the volume just a little bit to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So that's what we want. We want a sound that stays centered. We don't want it to move around. So I'm going to sing it. I'm not going to be a good singer, I promise. It's going to be terrible. But you'll get the idea now once I'm singing how we're going to adjust. Now you notice my voice is a little bit higher than F itself. It's kind of going up a little bit. If the dial is moving to the right, that means that my pitch is a little too high. It needs to be brought down. So to do that, I need to lower my pitch barely. And to do that on the instrument, we adjust our embouchure, or the shape of our mouths. To go lower in pitch, we kind of relax the embouchure a little bit so the pitch can go down. Especially on the woodwind side, we use our bottom lip to adjust the pressure on the reed. Keeping the top lip, of course, or top teeth on top of the mouthpiece at all times. And for flutes, kind of rolling in and out the tone hole, or the open hole at the head joint, so that way you can adjust the pitch. Going out goes sharp, pulling back in towards you goes flat. Okay, or rather it goes flat going out and sharp going in towards your face. Ooh. Now my voice went too low. That's going to be the opposite. We're going to kind of increase the pressure just slightly on our embouchure. Some cases, for saxophones especially, you can actually push in the mouthpiece a little bit, because if you're still getting a flat sound, that's, by the way, this sign right here, that's where that's sliding up. Ooh, that means that your instrument's too long. So that means for saxophones and brass instruments to kind of push in the main tuning slide to bring the pitch a little higher. Ooh. And if it's too high, you got to pull out the opposite direction to make the instrument longer. And for the strings, for orchestra, if your instrument's too high, or the pitch is too high, ooh, that means you have to loosen the tension on the string. So loosen the tension by turning the fine tuners, or for the bass is the machine head. And for saxes, pulling out the mouthpiece, trombones, trumpets, other brass instruments, pulling out the main tuning slide. Percussion, you will never have this problem, because your instruments are already in tune, unless, of course, you're playing a tuned percussion instrument that you can manipulate the pitch of. For example, toms, gongos, bongos, especially timpanis, and other instruments just like those with a movable drum head that can be tightened or loosened. And those are pitched a little bit differently than the other instruments are. So again, if you're going to be going too flat, or if your pitch is too flat, you might notice sometimes another pitch will show up rather than the F that you're trying to shoot for, or whatever pitch you're trying to play. And that means that your instrument is too long, or needs to be shrunk. So that means that saxophones and everybody else will go push in their mouthpiece, or push in their main tuning slide, or tighten the string because it's too loose. So that's how you use the TM50 tuner on the tuner side. So let's talk about the metronome side now. We can turn on both the metronome and the tuner at the same time, but for time purposes, we'll just turn off the tuner by pressing the tuner button and then turning on the metronome. Now, everybody at home should have this metronome set at 60 beats per minute. How do we know that? Well, if you look here, this is set at 60. To change the tempo, we're going to go to the tempo side. You'll notice that there's a plus-minus side right next to those arrows. Up means goes faster. Going down means go slower. Now, it doesn't go one beat at a time speed in this TM50. There are some apps out there, or some other metronomes that are just metronome specific that can go pretty accurate, but this is going to jump a few beats at a time, mostly for the more commonly used tempo markings in most pieces. because a lot of them aren't going to be like 59 beats per minute. They'll be 58 or 60 or 63 and so on, as you see here. Everybody should be practicing right now, especially in band, all their music at this beginner level at least at 60 beats per minute. That's usually the common time tempo that you choose to practice at. Now, once it's set at 60, you can hit the start-stop button. The cool thing about having it at 60 beats per minute is that not only do you see this dial going left to right every time there's a click or a beat, that's kind of like how your foot is moving down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That's the beat going. And if you guys try hitting the start-stop button along with the an analog clock with the second hand that moves, you'll notice that this is 60 beats per minute. That's exactly the same speed as a second hand moving on the clock. So there's 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and so on. Now the good feature about this metronome as well is that there's a tap tempo. So if there's something you're working on that you want to, like maybe you're writing a piece of music, you can try this as well. This is not necessarily encouraged for beginners especially because there's no point in using this. But if you tap a tempo, it kind of gives you like a, whatever you guys want to tap at, and gives you an own tempo that you want to select customized. Or you can try even slower tempo. Usually takes at least 2 to 3 or 4 different clicks to get the right tempo that you're going for. So let's say there's a piece of music on the internet or on the radio that you like, and you're trying to mimic it, and you want to make sure you have the right speed to practice along with it. Then you can just tap along with the radio to get the beat, and then you can kind of mimic that sound. Now, another thing you can do is change the beat. Now, this is not really necessary, but later on it will be. Let's say you're in a tempo let's go back to 60. So let's bring this back down to 60 first. Let's say your tempo is set at 60, and your time signature, which is that 4/4 or 3/4 at the left-hand side of your music at the very beginning of your piece, or your exercise right after your clef or key signature, which you'll learn later, and it'll say 4/4 time. That usually means the top number is 4 beats per measure, and the bottom number is tells us that the quarter note gets 1 beat. Well, that's when we're reading music. The really important thing for this metronome is knowing how many beats per measure you have. So let's try going to 4 beats per measure. To adjust that, we go to this beat arrows here, down beats, up beats, and it'll give you a stronger beat on beat 1 because we're thinking about 4 clicks or 4 beats per measure. The first click will be always beat 1. That's in any piece of music, beat 1 is usually always the strongest feel or the strongest sound, especially with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you notice that the click is a little bit higher pitched for beat 1. You can bring it down to 3/4 time. You'll notice that it'll be 2 clicks before you hear the high one, making a total of 3 clicks. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Let's stop. And again, you can adjust it 2/4 or 1/4, where it's all high pitched, or just go 0, which makes it the same as 1, but just a lower pitch. Click, hit stop, and there you go. And then when you're done, all you have to do is hit stop. Now, when you put both of them together, it kind of gets a little confusing. So make sure that you only see one or the other at the very beginning. You don't need to have this on there, because once you start clicking this, it might pick up some of the sound from the clicking. Thankfully, it's not doing it right now. Awesome. So when you guys are doing like the odd numbers on your books for Essential Elements band students, you can actually use this for those 4 beats of sound to keep it in tune. Then you rest for 4 beats, then go ahead and play for 4 beats. Like on number 1, when you play a concert F note, let's change it to 4/4 time, and you're trying to make sure you're staying in time, and you're trying to make sure that that F pitch, concert F pitch, is staying in tune for 4 counts at least. So this is another way to practice as well for the beginners. Let's stop that real quick, and let's turn off both. And that's it. And that's how you use the TM50 Korg tuner. If you have any questions, email us.